Okay, welcome back. This is at the time of the end, and we're talking about the book of Isaiah. Now, we've been talking about verse 5 in Isaiah. Very, very interesting. Where it says, the earth is polluted by its inhabitants. It's literally, the earth is also corrupted under its inhabitants. This is talking about the curse that the earth was put under because of man's sin. We see that in Romans 8, 19 through 23. Man's sin has caused the earth to groan underneath it. The Lord put the earth under this curse of corruption to teach man the consequences of sin. When Adam and Eve sinned, the Lord slew 2 lambs and took their bloody skins and threw them around their waist to cover their nakedness. So that they had to walk out of the Garden of Eden, literally with blood dripping on the ground all over their feet and in front of them. They walked out on the blood-sprinkled way. You've heard the song, I come to thee on the blood-sprinkled way. It's the blood of Christ this time, which is sprinkled on the ground, that we walk back into the Garden of Eden. Man learned when they saw those beautiful, perfect lambs slain for the sin that they just committed in the Garden of Eden. I know it broke their hearts because both of them were tender-hearted and perfect in their hearts, except for their act of rebellion. And so God put the whole earth under a curse, and Adam and Eve started seeing lions now slaying lambs and killing. You started seeing dinosaurs slaying others and killing and eating the flesh. The nature of animals changed. They had a vivid reminder of the cost of the curse that they themselves put on the earth. The earth is cursed by its inhabitants. Why? For they transgressed laws, violated statutes, broke the everlasting covenant. That's exactly why. It's because of man's sin. And it's still that way today. You look in the book of Revelations, you look here in Isaiah, and the reason for the curse, the reason for the judgments, the reason the earth is being twisted and torn is because of the rebellion of man. It hasn't changed. Man hasn't changed since the Garden of Eden. Verse 6, therefore a curse devours the earth, and those who live in it are held guilty. That's exactly right. That's what's happening right now. Right now we are cursed with a plague on the earth. And it is killing the righteous and the unrighteous. I actually had somebody tell me, well, Christians won't be hurt by this curse. Don't worry. Christians won't be hurt. And if somebody claiming to be a Christian is hurt, they weren't a real Christian. I thought, how foolish. That'd be the first time in all of history that true Christians weren't hurt in a plague. Christians have been hurt in every plague that's come upon the earth. The righteous and the unrighteous experience the rain and also the drought. Why is the curse coming? Because mankind as a whole, as a majority, have turned from God. Why is it hitting the righteous too? So those that are left behind and remain become zealous for God. They become strong in God and zealous. It's interesting with the curse of this plague starting in China, it's amazing to see how Christians, the underground Chinese church is raising up. And they're going out and they're helping others. They're ministering to others. They're dying of the plague, knowing that they could give their lives in this ministry. They're going out anyway. You see, the Christians in the midst of plague shine bright. Jesus manifests through them, so that they give their lives for another, just as Christ gave his life for us. It's always that way. When righteous Antipas was preaching and praying fervently for the saints in the city, and the demon spirits rose up in the city. I can't think of the name of the city. Patmos, in Patmos. And he was praying for them and praying the demons out of the city till the demons rose up and gave visions to the demonic priests and told them why they were being driven out. So the demonic priests went to the Roman governor and told him what was going on. And they told Antipas, repent, turn against Christ, or we're going to burn you alive. The Antipas said, I'm not going to stop praying. I am not going to turn against Jesus. Let me ask you, Christians, was he a real Christian? Was he a real Christian who died in that horrible death? Absolutely. He's mentioned of by Christ in the book of Revelation as one of the heroes of the early church. He died as a martyr, Jesus said, and has a roll of honor. He's on the roll of honor for all time now. And because he was a real Christian, he died sacrificing himself. Will real Christians die in a plague? Absolutely. What is required of you, a real Christian, in a plague? To get angry at God because you got the plague just like the unrighteous? No, what's required of you, Christian, is this. Give your life like Jesus gave his. Give your life like our Chinese brethren are giving theirs. Go out and minister. Go out and proclaim Christ. Go out and boldly preach against the sin that brought the plague in the first place. When the church and when those who see you ministering like Jesus, despite the dangers, despite the sickness, and despite some of you dying, they will realize that truly these people believe. And these people have a faith that I don't have. You know, you've heard Fox's Book of Martyrs where the henchman was beheading all these Christians over and over and over again till finally one day he asked a Christian their testimony, why are they willing to go to the death? And they told him the testimony, and he said, truly this is an honorable death, and these are people of great conviction. And he gave his heart to the Lord. Then he took his hood off, and he threw it to the next man and said, go ahead, I'll be the next martyr. And he gave his life. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that incredible? Because of the testimony of those saints who were dying, of those saints who were boldly going like Jesus and giving a testimony before they too died. And this will be the fate of Laodicea, the Laodicean church. This will be the fate of many, of many. So please don't go out teaching real Christians won't get this. That's a demonic lie. Don't take away the glory of Christ seen in our brethren who are sacrificing themselves for Christ's name's sake. The curse is devouring the earth, and those who live in it are held guilty. Are the righteous Christians being held guilty? No, but they're suffering with the guilty so that they have a chance to manifest and to shine like Jesus. That testimony sometimes costs us our lives. Be willing to pay that price. Be ready to pay that price. No, the guilty need to be held accountable. The guilty should have the Christians preaching against that guilt. You know, today, in today's world, everything has to be PC, politically correct. I've had people who have escaped communist countries tell me they hate that term because it's a communist term. Why have we accepted it as normal in this country? Is it in preparation for communism taking over? Absolutely. The beast system is known as the Great Red Beast. It is communism. And communists now are in our government and proclaiming that one day they'll rule it. I believe that sooner than later. What does the Lord wants us to do, O Christian? He wants us to proclaim. He wants us to cry out against sin. We're told that the sin of homosexuality and such are almost unthinkable to the normal man. But it should be exposed by the Christian. It should be exposed for what it is, not to condemn people, not to judge people's hearts. That's wrong. But to condemn the practice that destroys them. The practice that separates them from God. That's what you condemn. You condemn the sin, not the sinner. Only God knows their heart, and they don't even know their own heart. So pray for the sinner, condemn the sin. We're supposed to do that, not make excuses for it and be quiet. Be bold, Christian. Jesus was bold. Be bold. Okay. That's why the curse on the earth. That's why these things are happening. It goes on, it says, the last clause, therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned and few men are left. A great burning is coming. I want to talk about this. I want to depart from here for a moment. I want to go to the book of Joel. We'll come back here. But we see this picture here. We see this picture of what is happening in the earth. The earth is under the curse. The earth is being judged. And also the earth will be burned. We go to the book of Joel. And I'm not going to read it all. I'm just going to skip through chapters 1 and 2. Hear this, O elders, and listen, O inhabitants of the land. Has anything like this happened in your days or in your father's days? Tell your sons about it. Let your sons tell their sons, and their sons the next generation. In other words, listen, something extraordinary is about to happen. Something unheard of, something we haven't seen before. Something that we haven't tasted of before. Brethren, listen to me. In this end time update, it's happening now. This is happening right now. We're in it. He goes on, verse 4, he says, what the gnawing locust has left, the swarming locust has eaten. What the swarming locust has left, the creeping locust has eaten. What the creeping locust has left, the stripping locust has eaten. He goes, awaken, drunkards, and weep, and wail, all you wine drinkers, on account of the sweet wine that is cut off from your mouth. For a nation has invaded my land, a mighty and without number. Its teeth are like the teeth of a lion, and it has fangs of a lioness. It has made my vine a waste and my fig tree splinters. It has stripped them bare and cast them away. Their branches have become white. Wail like a virgin girded with sackcloth for the bridegroom of her youth. The grain offering, the libation are cut off from the house of the Lord. The priests mourn, the ministers of the Lord. The field is ruined, and the land mourns. The grain is ruined, and the new wine dries up. What he's saying is this. He's saying, look, the locusts have come, and they have destroyed all the crops. Brethren, this is happening. This is happening right now. Record-breaking locust invasions of Africa, now of the Middle East, and it has swarmed into southern Europe, and it's spreading into Europe. Record-breaking locusts, and they're afraid it's going to break out on the United States very soon. Let's see, it also broke out in Australia, right? I believe it broke out in Australia and some other places down south. India, yes, it broke out in India too. This is one of the plagues. It's one of the plagues. What does the Lord tell us to do? Verse 13, gird yourselves with sackcloth and lament, O priests. Wail, O ministers of the altar. Come spend the night in sackcloth, O ministers of my God. For the grain offering and the libation are withheld from the house of God. Then he goes on and he says, consecrate a fast. Proclaim a solemn assembly. Gather the elders and the inhabitants of the land to the house of your God. And cry out to the Lord, alas, for the day of the Lord is near. This isn't the day of the Lord, but the day of the Lord is near. How do we know? Because the plagues are pouring out. The plagues are pouring out. The barns are torn down. The seed shrivel under their clods. The storehouses are desolate. That's exactly what's happened in America. The floods, the bad weather, all of that, it has destroyed the crops. Our food supplies are running very short now. It goes on and talks about it over and over again. It says this, verse 18, how the beasts groan, the herds of cattle wander aimlessly because there is no pasture for them. Even the flocks of sheep suffer. Listen, we are experiencing now because of the plague of the virus. The meat packing plants are closing all over America. But this is happening around the whole world. It's happening in China. It's happening everywhere because they're finding the plague in the meat. People are full of plague and are still working, and they're coughing and just touching the meat. Just breathing spreads the plague. So our meat is no longer clean. So the animals are dying off and they're being slaughtered. They just had fires starting. In one farm, over 300,000 poultry were killed because of fires. 2.2 million were slaughtered last month because of another virus that has infected them. And now they were going to lose millions of pounds, they're saying, of beef because of the virus that has infected it. So it's incredible. It's amazing. Then he says this in verse 19, "To thee, O Lord, I cry, for the fire has devoured the pastures and the wilderness, and the flame has burned up all the trees of the field, even the beasts of the field pant after thee." So what we're warned about is coming, and that's this, that great fire is coming upon the land. Great fire is coming upon the land. The scientist Mike and others now are warning us that the asteroids that are coming our way, many of them will fall, starting fires all over the earth. They asked him, of all the end time things you see coming upon us, what's the thing you fear the most? He said it was the fire, the fires that are coming. Here we are at the end of April, and possibly within a couple of weeks, those fires will begin. It could take to June, which is not very far off, for the fires to begin. But surely this summer and 2020, the fires will be here. The asteroids falling, it's already begun. In Nairobi, as I've said before, one city was hit of modern buildings, cement and cinder block buildings, metal roofs and tile roofs, over 100 homes destroyed, thousands damaged. The roofs caved in from on top, the asteroid landing right next to them, digging a 30 by 100 foot hole. Many dead and many, many injured. This is going to become commonplace. The fires that we see warned of here in Joel will also be, that are also spoken of in Isaiah, will be commonplace and will spread around the world. We'll talk about this more in the next video. Lord bless.